Hello, everybody. My name's Ed Pavlik, and I'm in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm going to bring you a new GYN Garage today, which is International Day of Action on Women's Health. My colleague today is
Frank Lawton from London, United Kingdom.
Today, we're going to consider a paper from the United States that's titled "Ovarian Cancer Isn't Just a White Woman's Disease." This opinion perspective was recently published in JAMA Oncology. Frank, what's your take on this paper?
I find this a very difficult paper. I accept that it's an opinion, but the editors must presumably have either asked for this opinion or have agreed that the opinion is worthwhile. The title, Ovarian Cancer Isn't Just a White Woman's Disease, as I read it, I said, yes, I know that. And I imagine that majority of people who read JAMA Oncology presumably are oncologists, and they know that as well. So what was it that engendered this commentary? And I think that part of the problem is I will go back to it at the end rather than speak to it now. In the commentary, the authors say that the legacy of anti-Black racism in the US and worldwide is responsible for this belief that ovarian cancer is a disease of white women. Yet in the manuscript, they talk about the incidence increasing in women in Southeast Asia, Japan, Korea, and Sub-Saharan Africa, where there aren't, as far as I know, a large white population. And I think that if this author had been, let's say, in Samoa and said that he or she considers that the disease of ovarian cancer is confined to Samoan women, then this would not have been published. Of course, it's confined to Samoan women because the author is in Samoa. This, I think, has a great problems because it talks almost as if people who are involved in oncology don't see anything else but white women getting ovarian cancer. It talks about things like opportunic salpingectomy is less available or is less available to Black women. Well, that may be the case, but it may be that Black women, and I do know this from personal experience, that Black women feel that salpingectomy interferes with their sexuality. And even if they're postmenopausal, the idea of salpingectomy to a lot of Black women is anathema. So in order to try to bring this into a racial problem rather than something else, I think is wrong. The other problem is, of course, that they're talking about, well, I assume epithelial ovarian cancers. They don't talk about stromal sarcomas or non-epithelial tumors. And the biggest problem, I have to say, is that the opening line is that at an international conference, someone said ovarian cancer is a disease of white women, and that is not referenced. So we don't know the conference, we don't know the aspect, we don't know who said it. Was it, for instance, in the middle of debate that said, we believe, this house believes that ovarian cancer is a disease of white women, as opposed to whatever. And I think it's a big problem in this paper that we cannot find out what is the reason why the paper was published. Everybody knows, I think, who's involved in ovarian cancer care, that it is not a disease of white women. Interestingly, they talk about incidences in other countries. In the UK, for instance, the other thing, before I forget, the other thing is that the paper links you're either white or Black or something else. And I think if I was from Southeast Asia, and they quote Southeast Asia, if I was from Southeast Asia, and I was a woman in Bangladesh, I don't think I'd want to be involved in the same sort of throwaway remark that women in Southeast Asia have something. In the UK, for instance, women in Bangladesh, the incidence of ovarian cancer is less than it is in women from the rest of the Indian subcontinent. And I think this paper is very, very superficial. I don't know how much impact it will have. I think we know it's not a white woman's disease, and I really don't see how this has told me nothing that I didn't know, and has also just, I think, enforced a lot of prejudices that people have about ovarian cancer, and I think it's wrong. It's not a very good discussion at all.
Well, Frank, Let me just add to what you said, and that's that if we look at Black women as a group that are becoming more like white women, they're becoming more educated. They're becoming people who put off having a family like white women until they complete their education and can have a career. And if we look at this as sort of an assimilation or a shift into what society as a whole both offers or requires, the factors that might protect against ovarian cancer in this assimilation are going to disappear. The large family size will shrink because children are putting off till later, and so that protective effect will be less. And as you originally pointed out, that the proportion of one race in a country that has a majority of white can be, the deciding factor in terms of how you perceive ovarian cancer. But I think really for the group as a whole, for Blacks as a whole, they are already accepted as having the same risks of ovarian cancer as white people, and that'll continue because they're going to become more like white people. And I think if there is any BRCA or gene type of foundation to all of this, is that as racial intermarriage becomes much more acceptable everywhere, those genetic dilutions will occur. So whatever was in the past is in the past. I think the present is that they can be expected to have the same risk as white people, and that'll continue as we move forward.
Yes, absolutely. Well, then I think it becomes a socio-economic rather than a racial argument. It's not that ovarian cancer is a disease, just a disease of white women. Ovarian cancer is a disease of women who live in a particular socio-economic climate. We know that Japanese women, the incidence of ovarian cancer is increasing in Japan. And as Japanese women have traveled across the Pacific via Hawaii and to the coast of America, the incidence of epithelial ovarian cancer increases. And I think to say that, well, we're ignoring the fact that these women are of whatever racial extraction is wrong. It's actually much more to do with access to healthcare and socio-economic arguments. The number of papers that particularly papers from America that say we're looking at a group of women and they are African American, Hispanic, Hawaiian, Native Americans. Just to say you're either black or white or not brown in the middle is completely wrong. And I think this paper actually does nothing to actually, as you were saying, the reality is much more nuanced than just what color you are or what racial group you put in. I don't know, are Hispanics seen as white people? Are people in South America who are Quechua people, are they seen as the same people as Hispanic people? It's completely wrong to do what this paper has done, and I think it's done itself no service, and I'm not sure it's actually done very much for the improvement of women's healthcare, particularly today when we're supposed to be celebrating improvements in women's healthcare.
Sure. Let me just say something about the paper per se, not about its content and not about its position. But there are two things that come out early in the paper. The first is, I've identified it in blue. There's a major statement here that's unreferenced. The incidence is increasing in these non-white racial groups while decreasing among white patients. If I were serving as an editor, I would want a reference there. Now, if it refers to what happened previously, I would have to say that that's not what's referenced previously. I would have to say that I didn't find that really the case for ovarian cancer in the previous reference 3.
Absolutely, yeah.
The other thing I'll point out is, and I've identified this in orange, is that the first orange text is somewhat contradicted by the second orange text. And that's simply saying that 28% of new ovarian cancer diagnoses occurred among patients from non-white racial groups. And then later we say that we see the paper saying that recognizing that most cases, well, 28% isn't most cases.
Yeah.
I think this type of contradiction could arise from a variety of things. It might have been written by a student, even though that's nothing that we can identify from the paper. And I think maybe the editorial staff of the journal was reluctant to, really go over this the way they've gone over other papers that have appeared in this journal.
Yes, I would.
And those reasons are, basically not wanting to get people who feel that they are behaving with a bias, I guess is what I would say.
Yes, I can understand that, and I think an argument against it would appear to be racist, but it's just, we know that ovarian cancer is not just a disease of white women, full stop, end of paper. Yes, and there are data that have been produced for 3-4 decades saying exactly that. But yes, I think it's a poor discussion, to be honest. It's probably not worthy of that journal, I think. However, I'm not the editor.
Well, that's right. Neither am I. We're just the readers out here.
Absolutely. We're just the mechanics.
That's right. Well, very good. I'm happy to be with you again today, and we'll do this again.
I will see you very soon, Ed. Take care.
Bye-bye.